Our guest today is Eszylfie Taylor, president and founder of Taylor Insurance and Financial Services. In addition to being an extremely successful entrepreneur, he's an author, speaker, philanthropist. Eszylfie, it's wonderful having you here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. So you're an extremely, after an extremely accomplished academic career, you're a business major, top of your class. I can imagine that you could have wrote your ticket anywhere. Yet in interviews, I've seen you say that you kind of fell into New York life by chance at the age of 22. Is that true? And what drew you to a career in insurance and financial services?
Yeah, as a young man, I would say I had this entrepreneurial spirit. Like I wanted to, I wanted to be successful. I wanted to make a lot of money, right? It was really, I was driven really by the money, to be honest. But I had no path, right? My mom was a government employee. My father was a doctor. So there was no entrepreneurial path laid out for me, right? Like I wanted to be successful, but what was missing for me is the how. Like how do you do it? How does that come about? And so I remember I'm in college, right? I'm 22 years old. I have one simple, modest goal at that time, and that was to become a millionaire by the time I was 25. Right? And I figured 3 years, 3 years is ample time to get there, right? So I get a mentor. Who lived in the city where I went to school in Portland, Oregon, and we go to lunch, and he's telling me he's telling me this is what it takes to be successful, and he's like, if you work for 30 or 40 years, you can be successful, you can be wealthy. And I'm like, oh, 30, 40 years, like, oh, no way, right? Because, I'm 22, I'm a kid, So for me, it's like when I found financial services, I realized very quickly I was going to be paid on my work ethic and my aptitude, not my age or my tenure, right? If somebody can do something I can't do and they make more money than me as a result, that's fine. But you shouldn't make more money than me because you've been sitting at a desk longer than me. You shouldn't be making more money than me just because you got more gray hairs than me. Right? Like it's all about aptitude. So for me, I'm like, if you show me what I need to do to be successful, then I'm with it. Unfortunately, there's not a manual. There's not a rule book on like, this is the path to success. These are the things that you do. So as a result, I'm failed a ton, right? Like people a lot of times will look at me now and see some of the things that I've accomplished and then I'm doing. They don't see the other side of that. We're like, man, I've failed a lot. You know what I mean? And I was just very resilient, right? And learned, and that's what really was the impetus of me, not only for my retail business with Taylor Insurance and Financial Services, serving clients, is like what got me to create the Taylor method, is why I'm like, I need to help my industry and my peers, see what it takes to be successful. Really, I say this a lot, like in all respects, I'm trying to be what I wish I had, and so you can have all the grit and the determination in the world, but, it's also nice to have a path, right? I love this phrase, persistence is stubbornness with a purpose, right? And so I always have been persistent. I always was stubborn, and I feel so blessed to have a purpose as well, and have meaning in my life. I don't know how many people can say they're doing something that they were made to do, that they're doing something that they absolutely love, and so I feel blessed to be in that position.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Speaking of path, the Black community continues to be woefully underrepresented in both insurance and financial services, despite its benefits to narrowing the wealth gap. I read a statistic recently where the number of Black CFPs between 2014 and 2018 actually was on the decline at a time when diversity and inclusion efforts within companies apparently is supposed to be at an all-time high. Why do you think that is?
There are many occupations that the makeup of that field does not correlate to the greater percentage of population, right? So if African Americans make up 13% of the population, then it's natural that 13% of financial advisors should be African American, right? When you look at it, and this was very sobering when I was at New York Life. I had my head down, right? Literally, like probably the first I don't know, maybe 7 years of my career, I'm just boom. Every time I'd get an award or anytime I'd get, you know, a designation, I didn't care. I didn't celebrate it. I didn't go on any of the awards trips. I was like, work, work, work. Because I was like, I don't want to celebrate being anything than number one, right? Anything other than being number one, like I'm not celebrating. I don't have time for that. And when I did it, I remember being like 28 years old. I'm in the top 100 in the company, right? So there's maybe like, I don't know, maybe like 200, 250 people that qualified for this level of production. And I remember going to my first meeting. It's the first time I've ever been around everybody in the meeting because I was just here in LA doing my thing. And I think there were 6 other African Americans in this grouping of people. That's 6 African Americans out of the 10,000 advisors at New York Life that were at that level, right? Damn. There was another designation which was called cabinet. Cabinet was the top 50 in the country. So obviously, once I hit that top 100, you know where my eyes were set, right? I gotta go to the top 50, right? There's the next progression. So I'm at that. I was the only African American qualifier for that top 50 in my entire time, you know, at New York Life, and I left there at 35 years old, the top producing African American advisor in the history of the company. Nobody had written more insurance, managed more money, done more plans than me. And while on one end you might go, wow, what a wonderful accomplishment, I always looked at it as kind of a slight, like, how can I be the top African American producer of all time at 35? Right? Like something's wrong with this narrative. And so as I'm out now and I'm speaking and I'm sharing my story and I'm around, I can't tell you how many times people say, oh, you know, I saw you in this publication. You know, one of the most, you know, poignant stories ever is a guy came to me, he's like, I saw you in this magazine. I was named top 4 financial advisors in the country under the age of 40 in 2015. And one guy was like, I saw your magazine. I was working in a bank at the time. I saw your magazine and you're the reason why I'm a financial advisor. So I think in large part, some of the reason why there's not more African Americans in this field is that there's no one to model, right? They're not like, oh, I want to be like that guy. I want to be like, and even for me, I didn't look at, there was no real African Americans for me to model, but just people in general, even people who are successful. What was always missing for me is how did you do it? Right? Like, I'm hungry, I'll work hard, I'm disciplined, but there's no roadmap. So you get a magazine, you get an email that says this person made, you know, $100,000 this month, or this person's $1 million producer, and you're like, that's great for them, right? But what do I do? How do I get that, right? And so I never forget is for me as like the first month I ever had my first 6-figure month in business, and I was like, okay, and trust me, like I've come from a point in time where I'm like, I didn't know, there were points in my career I didn't know how I was going to eat. There were points in my career like I didn't know I couldn't afford to put gas in my car. So to be at that level at some point later, like, wow, because everyone sees all the glitz and glamour and all that stuff, but man, man, there's been some rough days for me, rough days, right? And so to be here and then finally reach that pinnacle, I'm like, okay, I now know what it takes. And this now, not just doing it one time, is this consistency, right, that's there. And it's interesting, you talk about my background, and my father is interesting because my father is from Ghana, West Africa. My father's not African-American. My father is African, period, right? And it's funny, you put 4 Africans in a room, 3 of them have some kind of postgraduate degree, right? You know, my father, you know, is like, why don't you get a PhD? Nah, why don't you get 2 PhDs? I'm like, Dad, I'm good, right? You know, whatever. My mom, on the polar opposite, my mom grew up in Jim Crow South, North Carolina, literally being pulled out of school as in the 2nd and 3rd grade to pick cotton, right? These are my parents. They come together and they make this guy. Neither my mother or my father, and it's interesting that not my mom didn't do it to me, but neither one of them ever told me, you'll be successful, but you can only get so far. Or you're going to have a hard time because you're black, or you're going to have a hard time, whatever. They just told me, be the best or among the best, right? So in my head, I'm like, be the best or among the best. So I never had this like ceiling. And maybe it's also, I grew up in Southern California. So a lot of maybe the at least the outspoken racism, and it was more under the covers, right? So I didn't grow up with a lot of that. Although, you know, even again, you know, I did experience some of that, but not as much as, again, some other parts of the country. It's funny as I even being around other African-American advisors will go, well, I can only be so much, or I can only get so high. And I'm like, man, you guys have created, not even created, but you've bought into this ceiling. Like you can only get so like far. Like for me, I'm like, you're looking right now, Roland, I'm a billionaire, right? I'm a billionaire. I didn't say B, billionaire. And the first thing for me is this manifestation. I believe it. Why? Why not? Why not? Someone can do it. It can be done. You're saying it can be done. Then why not me? Right? And so that's the first thing. So first is mentality. Like I believe there's nothing like I'm not going to get so far because I'm black, or I'm not going to get so far because I'm young. I don't like, yeah, some people may have a better leg up in life than me. Maybe some people have more opportunities than me, but I'm just as capable as anybody. White, black, brown, gay, straight, Muslim, Christian, like, let's go. Like I'm game. And I think that's the first thing. I think even if you say, well, first we have to get rid of the stereotypes, and we have to get rid of the programming. And this is generations that African Americans have, that, oh, I'm programmed to be less than, or I can't speak out. Like, that's got to go, right? First of all, and that's not an easy task. That's not easy when you to take away, generations of that programming. That's one, right? And that has nothing to do with your personal psyche, right? That's just our society at large. That has to go away. But then you also have to believe yourself, right? Like, if you don't believe in yourself, it's even crazy. Like, I don't even look at myself as someone who should be praised or someone who should be exalted, because people who came before me, they had it hard, right? The people who I imagine desegregating a school, I imagine being spit on or rocks thrown at me, or my tire slashed, or even, someone threatening my life, that I haven't gone through those things, who are the true pioneers. And then they made a way for me, right? They made a way for me to be on these public forums and stages and have this, as I am now creating a new normal, a new realm for other people that are now coming behind me, that are like, oh, Eszylfie did that? Well, if Eszylfie got here, but then I can get here. And that's why I do what I do. There's no competition to me. There's not like, even people say with my Taylor method, like, why are you telling all your secrets? Why are you telling people all the things you do? I'm like, why? There's so much money. There's so much opportunity. There's so much abundance for everyone, right? Why do I need to hold anything close to I'm going to share. Yeah. Right? And so I think for me, like, I'm here. I'm a light. I want to be a blessing to this industry. I want to be a blessing to the world. I want to be a blessing to everyone that I touch. And if anything, I think what I force people to do is judge people on their character, judge people on how they act, judge people on what they say, not on what they look like.
Yeah. Now's the time, right? So, you've coached thousands of advisors via the Taylor method. What do you say to that young black man or young black woman today considering a career in insurance and financial services?
Yeah, I think anything in life worth anything, like a value, is going to come at a cost, right? And I would say everyone wants to be successful until they see what it takes. This career that I've embarked in, if other people look at it, it's tough because, number one, I sell something that doesn't exist, right? Like, I sell an idea. I sell peace of mind. It's not tangible. So it takes a great deal of I'd say self-awareness and your ability to convey concepts to people to get them to move. Because, like, for example, if you wanted to buy a car, you're like, oh, I like this make, I like this model, I like this color. It's tangible, right? If you want to buy a shirt, like, I like this shirt, I like the way it fits, I like it's free flowing. If I'm like, get insurance to protect your family, invest your money in a fund and it will grow. Like, it's just he's like
abstract concepts. Yeah,
exactly. So at the end of the day, if you don't like me, if you don't trust me, if you're not like, yeah, I feel you, I'm with you, you're not buying. There's nothing there. You give me, I laugh because I literally take people's life savings, like 20, 30, 40 years worth of their work. And in exchange, I give them a piece of paper. Like, here's a paper with numbers on it for you giving me all your money, right? So I had to learn from me not to take things personally. It's not like, no, what do you mean? No, like, oh, I'm right. Or you no, it's at the end of the day, it's numbers, right? It's me seeing people. It's me being authentic. It's me helping people. And there will be some people that will receive it right away. There will be some people that will receive it a year, 5, 10 years later. And there'll be some people that just dismiss it altogether. And that's fine. I think for me, I would tell people, you got to come into this business with a purpose, right? What is your why? And it can't just be the money. Like me, oh, I want to make money. You can make money doing anything, right? It has to be a purpose. I want to help people. And the byproduct of you helping people is you make money. And then there's a great deal of resilience, right? I'll probably touch, I don't know, 30, 40 people a day. So I'm dismissed. I'm shined on. I'm overlooked. I'm rescheduled on constantly, right? And I deal with trials and tribulations and overcoming, not, every once in a while, multiple times, not even multiple times per day, multiple times an hour, right? And I've been doing this for 20 years. It's not even like a little bit of time. And in exchange for that, now look at my life and the blessings and everything like that. So I tell people it's certainly a marathon. It's not a sprint. Eszylfie, I worked really hard today and I didn't make $1 million. I'm out. It ain't gonna work that way. Like it's gonna take a while. But that's what I tell people. Know your why, know your purpose, and then gear up for a fight. And not a fight against people because we're here to help people, but a fight against complacency, a fight against a lack of financial literacy and education and motivation to plan. That's what you're fighting. You're fighting against. And so, and this isn't something that's particular to African American advisors or women or gay people, or it's a challenge that we're all going to face regardless of your ethnicity. I always flip things, right? Like when I was new, right now I'm 12 years old. You do the math. I'm 12, right? So I'm 42 years old. But I look young. I mean, right? Black don't crack. I look good, right?
Yeah. I've got the Asian curse. I got a couple of years on you, man.
Well, Asian don't raisin. Asian don't raisin. But so you black don't crack. Asian don't raisin. But we're here. So I'm looking at like, okay, so look what I look at like now. I'm 42. So imagine what I look like when I was 22 years old, right? Like I was 12, right? So everything is a glass half full. I always say, does a rose bush have thorns? Or does a thorn bush have roses? It's all a matter of perspective, right? And so when people go, oh, you're so young, I'm like, exactly. You want me to be young, right? If I was 60 years old, right? If I was 60 years old like you, by the time you retire and you're ready to start drawing money out, I'll be retired too. I'll be old. I'm out, right? So you want me to be young. I'm going to be here through your accumulation years. I'll be here during your distribution years. And I will be here when it comes time to pass these monies on to your heirs. You want me to be young. Right? That's how I flipped it when I was younger. Now that I'm getting older, now the funny thing is why you look at it. Now if I'm in competition with a young person, I'm like, you don't want that young person. You don't even know this stuff. You know what I'm But again, it's all a matter of perspective. Perspective is not the truth. Perspective is simply what you see. And if you don't like what you see, then change it. And if you can't change it, then change the way you think about it. So that's the way for me. Like I don't fret. I don't put my head down. People are like, are you always like this? You're on. Yes. Right. If I made $100,000 today, I'm like this. If I lost $100,000 today, I'm like this. I am 100% detached from the outcome. I have no idea what life is going to bring for me. No idea. And I really don't care. I am 100% bought into and believe into the process. If I do what I'm supposed to do, if I live my life to be the best man I could be honorable today, help people today, right? Take care of my family today. If I do that, right? If I commit to doing that every day, life will bring what it will bring.
Being an extremely successful producer, you've clearly built an enduring business with Taylor Financial Services, and by the year 2045, there's going to be more people of color in the United States than there will be white people.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious on your thoughts, not just for those folks that are trying to develop, brokerage businesses, but even for those home office leaders at carriers, business leaders in general, who want to create a more diverse and inclusive culture within their organization. Do you have any advice for that, for those folks?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes time. It's important that people of color are in positions that they can be seen. And again, I speak to modeling. If you were to ask the average black kid on the street today, who do you want to be when you grow up, right? More times than not, they're going to want to be LeBron James, right? Or Drake, Steph Curry, or Patrick Mahomes, something like that. And the reality of it is so few people make it to the NFL, NBA, stars, actors, and actresses, right? Very, very small percentage. The reality of it is the barrier to entry, right, is tiny, tiny. Can you pass an insurance test? Can you pass a real estate exam? Right? Can you get a certificate, right? To trade certificate, right? These are things that you can do. So I think one of the reasons, and even for me, look, I grew up private school my whole life, educated parents, right? And even me, I didn't know careers like mine existed. I didn't know. I thought everyone went to work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, because that's what I saw. So a lot of times we model what we see. I have a reality show that I'm working on right now called Mind, Body, Money. And one of the most important things for me that I want to portray in this show is modeling. I want to show America, not only black people, but I want to show everybody, like, this is what I do, right? This is the power of the work that I do. And you can be this, right? You can have this. And so I want a kid to be like, I want to be like Eszylfie Taylor. I want to be better than Eszylfie Taylor. Or hell, I didn't even know that existed, that he can do that, right? Because if in your mind, if you think the only way that I can get ahead in life is to be an athlete or to be a hustler, right? And because that's maybe all I see, right? Then we're very much. I am very much a believer of the idea of nurture over nature. Yes, I believe we're all inherently a certain way, but it is our environment and things we see that we model that's more important. It's like I make my daughters watch all these old movies with me all the time. They're like, "Daddy, this movie's like, is that how it was in the olden days?" I'm like, "It's not the olden days; it's the '90s, whatever." But I make my daughters watch these movies with me. And the other day I was watching Trading Places. I don't know if you remember that Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, where Dan Aykroyd is this hoity-toity, elitist, white guy, and Eddie Murphy's a street kind of thug bum guy, whatever, and they switch spots, right? And all of a sudden, this guy, African American guy who's hustling and uncouth, now all of a sudden is in charge of this, multi-million-dollar commodities company and doing well, right? And the guy who's like pedigree background, Ivy League, country club guy, resorts to crime and over because he's now impoverished, right? And it's like, and that's nature, right? It's or nurture rather, right? It's what you're around and what you experience. So for me, I think if you can open up eyes and see these things exist, and again, speaking to your question specifically on what the carriers could do, exalt people and show people of color so that people can see, yes, I can be that person, right? I can be that person. I mean, even for me at New York Life, like, it's not like, who else is the top African-American advisor? Like, it's only one, right? There should be, again, I don't even want to say a number because this might not come. It's not even that I don't want to say I believe or disbelieve in affirmative action. I believe everyone should get what they deserve, right? Regardless of your gender, regardless of your color, regardless of your sexual orientation. Everyone should get what they deserve, what you earned, what you work for. But you can't hold people down, right? You can't hold people down. You got to bring people up, or at least give them an opportunity. At least give them an opportunity to go like, here, let me train you up the same way these group of people have been trained up. And then, yeah, if you earn it, yeah, you have just rights to this as anybody else. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean. And equality, right? Equality isn't just it. There's this meme that I saw, and there was a fence, right? A baseball field and a fence, right? And there's a man, right? A tall man and a teenage boy and a toddler. And equality is they all were standing on a stoop, right? They all were standing on the stoop. And the stoop was the same 2 feet. And they all had the same 2 feet. And you look at it and go, that's equality, right? They all were now given the same things. The problem is they're starting at a disadvantage. The person who's tall, that 2-foot stoop got him over, he could see. The teenage kid was a little shorter. He's kind of head above water. But the toddler, even you give him the same 2-foot stoop, he's still at a disadvantage even though you gave him equality. right? So it's a matter of now we have to equalize, right? Equalize, that should be the disparity first. So you don't give the toddler a 2-foot stoop, you give them a 6-foot stoop. So that at least now they're starting at the same level, right?
100%.
You can't today say, fine. You're 400 years of trials and tribulations, and today I'll be nice to you. No, it has to get, we have to be brought up first and brought to an even playing field first, right? And then, by all means, let the best man win, right? But you can't just start that out of the blue.
All right. Final thoughts. Do you have any parting words for us on how the industry can instigate real change?
As an industry, and it's interesting, right? Because this and talk about money in general, these money, government powers and money is in large part, this industry is run by, 60-year-old white men, right? And I think until we start integrating diversity with people of color, with women, different sexual orientations, backgrounds, beliefs, and getting perspective from different people, why would it change? So I think this concerted effort for diversity, because here's the problem. You don't get diversity in this industry by hiring African-American advisors, right? You get diversity in this industry by there has to be at the executive level, right? Because if you think about it, if I bring in an African-American advisor to the table, who is he modeling? And what experiences who is he like? How did you overcome this, right? So there has to be, I don't want to say someone that looks like you, but there has to be someone who can relate to what you're going through. So I say on a corporate level, that's what it needs to be. Even this is one thing, and again, I'm on my soapbox, so bear with me. I remember when I was at New York Life, right? Mind you, I'm top 1% in the company. Like I'm the who's who. I'm this guy. And I remember there was an African-American market. There was a unit. And I remember the head of the African-American market showed me this sales piece, right? And the sales piece featured an African-American family. So somebody in marketing was like, hey, let's put an African-American family on this instead of a white family so that they can relate, right? So there you go. We did our job. But the sales piece was like, you can buy life insurance for as low as $19 a month or something like that, right? And I said to the guy, I'm like, you realize that if advisors were out trying to sell $19 a month policies, that none of them would make it, right? So if you're arming them with collateral that has them working in the lower markets that's saying, hey, this is what you can do, right? They're stuck. Where's the sales piece that says, hey, African-American successful person, if you can save $20,000 a year, not $200 a year, $20,000 a year, you can create a 6-figure stream of income in retirement. That's the messaging that they need. Not here's what $19 does. You can't tell me you have DirecTV, right? You can't pay $200 for DirecTV and then not tell me that you don't have insurance. You are not saving money for your future. And again, because there's less financial literacy and education done by people of color, about brown people, you have to show them this is what this could do, not keep them down. So I think on a higher level and executives, diversity not only in the agency force, because if you do that, you're going to hire them and they're just going to turn out. You need it from the executive management and sales training. You need it there, right? And that's really why I do the Taylor method. That's why I'm here. Like, forget the money, right? The money will come. I'm not worried about that. You do the right thing, the money will come. But that would be my advice, right? So all people out there, I would say, like, stay encouraged. Black people, Hispanics, Asian, right? White people even. We're all in this. And when they say the all lives matter, it's like, yeah, all lives matter, right? But again, assuming we're all started equally, right? But that's the thing. Equality and the biggest thing is humanity. Just have humanity. When I look at people posting all these things and I see some of the travesties in the way that African Americans in particular have been treated, I'm like, people don't even treat their animals that horribly. You wouldn't even do these things to a stray cat, right? In an alley, you wouldn't do these things that African Americans have endured. So it's not about revenge. It's about moving past what's gone on and having equality and bringing everybody together, moving forward. And when we all treat each other fairly and with love, then we've arrived. And so this isn't just for financial services, it's across the board in every company. So as you're out, my challenge to you, Roland, is as you're out and you're talking to these companies and they're talking to you about diversity and how they can improve, don't just let it be lip service, do it. Don't talk about it, be about it, and not, yeah, I'm just gonna, go to the HBCUs and recruit advisors out of college. Like, no, let's go identify executives, African-American executives, Hispanic executives, female executives that we can put in positions of leadership where they're making decisions, right? And have things and people that, and have careers rather, and positions that other people can model.
I appreciate you so much, sir. Thank you for your time. You really are a blessing to the industry, Eszylfie. Thank you so much, and yeah, all the best. Thank you for time
Man,
today.
Appreciate you for having me, and best of luck to you. And I'm glad that I was able to share some of my ideas and thoughts. And I'm here. So tell all these companies, Taylor Methods here. This guy's here. I'm a beacon. I'm a light. I love the adage is we all got to look to help each other. A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. So let's all light someone else's candle. Let's all be a light to other people. All love. I appreciate you, Roland. Thank you so much.